Lepore, speaking about, just the Canadian division in general. Okay. So, as we know, the Leafs are in first, the Habs and Canucks right behind them. At the bottom of the division is the Ottawa Senators. So
Yeah.
after their first game of the season against the Leafs, they surprised everyone. They hadn't played for, what was it, 300 and whatever days. They beat the Leafs 5-3. Since that first win over the Leafs, the Senators have lost 7 games in a row and have been outscored 33-12.
I didn't
And
even
now
know
it
that. I didn't even
seems
know the score. I didn't even know that scoring stat. Wow.
they have been outscored by 21 goals over the last 7 games. So,
Okay.
there was this whole narrative that, they got Tim Stützle now and Brady Tkachuk, who we're both very high on.
Yeah.
But people thought maybe the Senators would be a little bit further along in their rebuild than we originally thought, based on the talent that they had brought in the offseason, even bringing in guys like Evgeny Dadonov, right? But now it just seems like the rest of these teams in the Canadian division, if things aren't going well, look at the Vancouver Canucks. There we go. We got the Senators on the schedule. Let's beat them up and demolish them over 3 games and get right back into the playoff race. And that's exactly what's probably going to happen with the Edmonton Oilers, because 4 out of their next 5 games are against the Senators. So, Lepore, what are your thoughts just sort of on the Canadian division in general, and also what we're seeing with the Ottawa Senators just stinking it up in the basement right now?
Yeah, well, quickly with what you mentioned, I noticed one of the Sens reporters tweeted that out, that it'll be an ongoing thing throughout the season of like looking at the Canadian division standings and then pointing to, well, how many games do they have left against the Senators? Almost kind of like referring to it as games in hand. But like looking at the division, it's early, but it's kind of like what we expected in the way that with the Leafs, with the talent they had going into the season, we expected them to be a team that was near the top. And so far, we're getting that. We mentioned Montreal, how we really like their lineup, how they're balanced. They have the best goalie in the world, so we expect them to be near the top. And everyone else, we were kind of expecting a cluster. And so far, there hasn't been any real surprises. If you do want to call the Sens a surprise, it's a tough one, because I think sometimes we often make the mistake looking at a team that makes a lot of changes, and we kind of naturally associate a lot of change with getting better. And like, I'll admit it, I guess I was fooled, because I saw the guys they brought in and I'm like, okay, like nothing crazy, but it looks fine. And you have some solid NHLers there, some guys who can score, some talent, maybe guys looking for a new beginning or a chance to show off so they can sign a new contract. You bring Murray in, who, okay, he got paid, and he should be in a comfortable spot. So you expect, this is it for him now. He can relax, maybe play well for a long time in Ottawa, kind of rebrand himself. But it has been really bad. And the scary thing is here, living in Ottawa, is that people are starting to turn a little bit. And this is a city that they do care about their Sens here. Like, contrary to the belief of a lot of people across the country, there are a lot of Senators fans here, and they do really care about their team. So you kind of hate to see that group of fans having to deal with what they're dealing with now, because there was cause for a lot of excitement. Like, those fans have been through the shitter, like with Melnyk the last couple of years, and with star players leaving, and they went into the season with a lot of optimism, because like they do have Stützle. He has a great World Juniors. He's an exciting player. They have Brady Tkachuk. They have Sanderson, that American kid who's a great prospect. Thomas Chabot is unreal.
Awesome.
Like, absolutely unreal. Like, everyone, whenever they do those, projected Team Canada Olympic lineups, he's there. And you look at the guys that they brought in, and you look at the team statistics, and no one's stepping up, man. Like, I'd love to hear more from Sens fans, and comment down below about who you think can step up or who hasn't stepped up. And if you want to shit on certain players because they're not what you expected them to be, because I look at Galchenyuk, you mentioned Dadonov, they brought in Paquette from Tampa, because you do look at their defensive core. And like, you have Chabot, you have this young star, and they've surrounded him with Goodbranson, who, as far as advanced stats go, is in a race with Cody Ceci to be the worst player in the National Hockey League. You have Riley and you have Nikita Zaitsev. It's like, man, you are asking that kid to do a lot. And with that, you are risking a lot with his confidence. Like we see it all the time, these defensemen who have great starts to their career and then they kind of fade away because like their confidence is just smashed because they play on a bad team. And I'm not saying I'm predicting Thomas Chabot to do that, but it's not something that's in the back of my mind in the way that he might not progress the way we're hoping because of this environment. And even like Stützle, someone pointed out, they brought up the what's the metric? It was 5-on-5 expected goals for and against. And it's early in the season, so you don't want to read too much into it. But Stützle's the worst player in the league in that stat. Now, again, the kid's 19 years old. He just turned 19. It's his rookie season. And that stat has a lot to do with the players you're playing with and the team you play for. But I mean, no one expects this kid to be really good defensively, like number one being 19, number one being an offensive player, and his first year in the league. I just think it's a reflection of the environment he's in. Like to be the worst in the league. Again, and to me, it's just they did not do a good enough job of identifying what these kids need to be around them so far anyway, because these players haven't stepped up. And just done their best to put them in a situation where they can progress. Because I don't think anyone thought, like, even when we said in the earlier show about, we expect a lot from the Senators, we're excited for the Senators. And that was kind of the take of a lot of Sens fans, that they were excited about this team. They were excited for this season. But when they were saying that, I don't think they were referring to, oh, we're going to make the playoffs or go on a run. They just thought, they would, when they got to watch their team, they would see a group that's young, exciting, score a lot of goals, fight in every game. Like we mentioned, be annoying. Like we thought, oh, they would be a really annoying team to play against. And even if they, they miss the playoffs or whatever, like, give them a round of applause. They're a bunch of kids, great young season. Players put up good numbers, but they're not even getting to see that. Like they're seeing this team just get obliterated every night. Like those games against Vancouver were ugly. They were ugly. And if you follow the Senators Twitter world, now even people are shitting on DJ Smith. Like here's his coach who couldn't do no wrong. Now they're shitting on him for the minutes he's handing out, like not playing the kids. And that being said too, yeah, like fans, I've seen fans point to that and they're kind of entitled to do that, saying, well, if we're losing, we might as well play the kids. But the Sens are an interesting one, man. Like I hope they turn it around. You don't want to see a team have that bad of a season. Like recently we can point to Detroit had one of those
last season was
oh my god, like really bad. Remember even a couple of years ago that season, I think Colorado got like 45 points.
Yeah.
Like when these kids first got there and like Duchesne was still there. Like you don't want to see teams that low. Like one of the big Sens writers posted the other day saying he thinks it's a coin flip to see if they get 10 wins in a 56 game season. And like this is a Sens writer. So like this is stuff I'm creating. Like these are their fans. This is like their media pointing to these things, like worried. And like I'll throw this question at you. If you're the Sens, I mean, everyone knew, again, they didn't expect them to be very good. So they expected another high pick. But other than, okay, we're going to be bad again and get another good pick, what should they do? It's not too often that you can see a team situation and not have a real clue of what they should do when it comes to the next move and getting better. Like, the bad teams, it's easy to say, okay, they should come last, get a good pick and go from there. But even the case of like, okay, they're going to sell off their veterans there and, create cap space and fill it and then get picks and do whatever, use their assets, or vice versa. You have the team on the up. Okay, they got to sign a big guy now. Now's the time to pull the trigger to put us over the edge. With the Sens, where they're at right now, I don't really know, like other than getting that pick again, because the guys they picked up and the guys with expiring deals, they're not going to get much. No one's going to break the neck for no one's going to break the bank for Goodbranson or Stepan. So I don't know. Like, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, I just think the Senators have to be patient. And I think it just comes back to expectations, right? Because we've seen teams, just in the recent past, like the Leafs, right? Where Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Connor Brown, and Zach Hyman, these guys all come in, right, as rookies,
Yeah.
and they immediately make an impact, right? Like the Leafs immediately turn things around, become a playoff team, and you're like, wow, like, rebuilds are supposed to take longer than this. Like teams are
Yeah.
supposed to struggle for 3 to 5 years and go through the ups and downs. And, not to say the Leafs haven't gone through their ups and downs, they obviously have. But in terms of going from a really bad team to being a competitive playoff team, the Leafs showed, and there's been other teams, right? Even if you look at like Pittsburgh with Crosby and Malkin. But I think what fan bases do is that they look at situations like that, and you could even look at Chicago with Kane and Taves, and they go, well, this has to happen immediately because it's happened in the past with these teams. But that's not necessarily how it works all the time. And I think, like I said, I think it just comes down to expectations. And you also have to realize who you're going up against in this division, right? So 10 out of these 56 games, 9 or 10, whatever it is, you're playing the Leafs, who have, one of the best offensive teams in the league. Then you're playing McDavid and Draisaitl. Then you're playing that really solid Vancouver team with Pettersson, Horvat, and Besser. So when you kind of look at the cores of all these other Canadian teams, even looking at the Flames with Gaudreau, Monahan, Lindholm, right, Markstrom and net, and you stack that up against the Senators, you're like, hold on a second. The Senators are still not where they need to be. And yes, it's great that they have Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and Thomas Chabot, who looks like an absolute stud on the back end, but they're just not there yet. And yes, would I like to see better play from Matt Murray, who's won 2 Stanley Cups and who has shown that he can be one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League? Would I like to see his numbers get better? Of course, because his numbers suck right now. And that is, a reason why the Senators aren't playing well. But it's a lot of things. The team, offensively isn't there. Defensively, they're giving up way too many chances. I mean, it's like you said, they got absolutely obliterated by Vancouver. What's going to happen when they play McDavid and Draisaitl for the first time, right? So I think it's just one of those things where just stay the course. You're going to get another really high draft pick this year. Continue to add to that core. And, I know they brought in guys like Stepan and Dadonov and, Matt Murray, as I mentioned. But at the end of the day, this team is not going to go out there and sign like a big high ticket free agent. They're just not, right?
And that's what I was referring to in the way, like, I don't really know what they do. Like, you can't expect that from the Sens, that they're going to sign some big guy. No, that's not going to happen.
And that's
like, not
why
to sound condescending, but it's not.
No, but it's true, right? It's just the reality of the situation. It's not just the Ottawa Senators. There's a number of teams out there who are not attracting big name free agents, right? So, and I think when you think about it like that, patience becomes even more important. You got to continue building through the draft. And listen, I know there's been issues with Eugene Melnyk and ownership and all that. And Sens fans, have some very strong opinions on that. And maybe just the whole culture surrounding the team. But I would like to think with the young talent they do have in place, and listen, the jury's still out on DJ Smith. We don't exactly know how great of a coach he actually is. I mean, only time will tell over the next few seasons. But again, I think Sens fans just have to relax a little bit, let this situation play out, continue to stockpile draft picks, and go from there.
Yeah, I think you got me thinking, actually. So 7 teams in the division. So you play 6 other teams. So in 50% of their games, the 2 centers are going to be Matthews, Tavares, Scheifele, Pierre-Luc Dubois. And what was the other one I was going to say?
McDavid
Draisaitl. That's half your games. Those are the 2 centers you're playing. Like, good luck. Like you're a young rebuilding team. Good luck. And then there's also the matter of, I think when people, again, these turnarounds, and not to be like, oh, it was the Leafs, but I think sometimes what we often forget is when we did have all those kids coming in and we didn't realize it at the time, but like we mentioned these guys like Dadonov and Stepan, and they brought in Galchenyuk. So let's look back at who those kids were added to on the Leafs. Nazem Kadri, Bozak, James Van Riemsdyk, Riley, Gardner. Like, they were guys like that. That's a decent team. And that these kids were brought into it. And like, maybe we didn't even realize it at the time of like, yeah, those guys are all pretty good players. Now we're bringing these kids and we had no idea what to expect. And it was a great, fun season. So, and again, you mentioned Chicago. Man, you want to laugh? Go look at that 2010 roster and look at that depth. Like, it's Andrew. It's you like forget, they had Andrew Ladd. Oh,
yeah.
Like,
okay. Bufflin.
Yeah, like Versteeg, like all these like amazing depth players. That team was so good. These teams were adding kids to good, solid cores. And it's with the Sens right now. It's like you're adding these kids. And again, we didn't realize it at the time. But then when you see it on the ice, you're like, wow, they're getting thrown to the wolves, man. Thrown to the wolves.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to see, how poorly they've been playing. And, it's like, you said even how that writer mentioned he might not even see this team winning 10 games this season. I don't know if it's going to be that bad. But what I do know is that this team is destined to finish last in the division.
Yeah.
And you know what? Go out there, try your best to be competitive on a nightly basis. It's all at that point, I think in Ottawa right now, it's just have a good culture.
Right.
Go out there, try hard, show that you care, try to stay competitive in some of these games, but it's going to be an uphill battle.